Welcome back to Prep Station Economics. Lesson about how we determine the price of things in our society. So in this session, we'll learn about price mechanism. We'll also talk about the equilibrium price and quantity and analyze the effect of price legislation on equilibrium. Okay, good. So let's jump into it. What is price mechanism? It is how supply and demand interact to determine the price and quantity of goods in a free market. So, of course, it's not only existing in a free market, it exists in all markets, but it's most evident in a free market. So, price mechanism is how we combine supply and demand for goods and services that to determine their price, how we choose the price of goods and services. Like I said, think of this as bargaining. How was the price of anything ever fixed? Is it not when people say, I will pay this for this, and somebody says, I will supply this for this. I will supply X amount of money for this good. Somebody says, I will pay X amount of money for this good. And by that alone, they bargain. Now, sometimes you might think, this does not exist in our society. I'm going to buy something from ShopRite or buy something from a popular store, and the price is 15 naira. I can't change the price. Yes, but you can't change the price in the store, but from the start, the price had been fixed with you in mind, with your consideration in mind. Because they know that if the price had been 100 naira, you might have walked out and say, I'm not buying this because there's somewhere else you can buy it cheaper. So the producer also considers the consumers in fixing price. That's what we call price determination. Yes, the producer makes the final say when it comes to price, but there's no way the consumer does not have a major influence on that. So let's look at this. Imagine the quantity, demand, and supply equations for ice cream were to be 100 plus 2p and 20 plus 4p. How can we find the equilibrium price and quantity? It's time for us to solve this question on the board. But before we solve this, please tell me you like ice cream. So let's look at this. All we need to do is to substitute values into p. But there's a faster, more efficient way to get this done. So we could have done when p equals to 1, we solve for both quantity demanded and quantity supply. And we solve again when p equals to 2, when p equals to 3, and we keep solving to get the final answer. But instead of doing that, we can simply say QS equals QD. Or you can write it in any way you want. Maybe QD equals to QS. But let us see which one will be better for us so that we can easily solve it. So let's say, okay, so let's look at that. Let's solve that mathematically. That will be QS equals 100 minus 2p, or then equals 20. Okay, let's just remove this because we don't need this. We don't have to repeat the whole process. We can just write the answer straight up here by saying QS equals 20 plus 4p, which is the same as the QD itself, which equals to 100 minus 2p by equating this. So we don't have to go back to this. This is just equilibrium now. Now, that means that we take the like terms, we move things around. That will be 4p equals, or let's say 4p minus 2p equals 100 minus 20. So 4p plus 2p equals 6p. Why are we putting plus here? Because we're moving this 2p to this side, it becomes positive. And we're moving this 20 to this side, it becomes negative. So 4p plus 2p is 6p, and 100 minus 20 will give us 80. So p equals 80 divided by 6. If we calculate this will be 13.33 recurring. So let us just remove this whole 13 thing. We probably might not need this. It's a 3 part. So let us now go. This is our equilibrium price. So our equilibrium price equals 13 naira, if it is naira that we're going with, and 33 kobo. But for the sake of this lesson, let us round everything back to whole number. That's 13. So let's substitute that back into any of the equations to get our quantity demanded or equilibrium quantity in terms of QD or QS. So we can pick anyone. Let's pick QS is quite easier. So let's say 20 plus 4p and substitute that 13 into this, so this changes. That becomes 20 plus 4 times 13. That's 20 plus, what is 4 times 13? 12 plus 40 will give us 52. And the answer to that will be 72. Good. Now we can also do the same thing for QD. So for QD would be, our previous formula is 100 minus 2p. Substitute the p of 13, rounded to whole number for the p. That gives us 100 minus 2, and this is 13. So what is 100 minus 2? That's 2 times 13 will give us 26. And 100 minus 26 would be, that would be 84. Yeah, no, that would be 74 rather. That would be 74. Now, this is no identity because we missed out some decimals here. But if you're working with the whole number, then it'll be much more easier. So what we need to do now is to draw the graph to show it. And the graph says it goes like this. This is P, and this is Q, and this is S, and this is D. So at this price, and the price is 13.33, we have equilibrium quantity there as well. So that is for the equilibrium quantity and price. Very good, so we're done with this. Now let us still go into drawing the graphs for price ceiling and price floor. So whenever we have an equilibrium part like this, which is like P and Q, and we have our supply, we have our demand, like this. If we're dealing with price ceiling, from the word ceiling, so ceiling means like the highest part, like the roof of your place, wherever you are right now, the highest. So if government want to put a price ceiling on goods and services, normally this is equilibrium point, right here, this equilibrium point. Let me call this PE and QE. But if government put a price ceiling on this, it means government put the highest price that this product can be sold for, basically ice cream now. So let's say the highest price is below equilibrium. So the government wants to say this should be the highest price you can sell it. So we'll call this PC, price ceiling. So if you look at this now, what happens here is that there will be a market failure because this will be for supply, this will be QS, and this will be for demand, this will be QD. And what we have noticed here is that we have more demand than supply. And if because we have more demand than supply, that means we have excess demand. We have excess demand. And when we have excess demand, we have more people demanding for a product than people supplying that product. What happens in society is that we have scarcity, we have shortage. Let's do the same thing here, and we'll be much, much faster here, since we already know how it works. So we have S here, we have D here, and we have the equilibrium price here, PE, and we have QE. Now a price flow, which means the lowest it should be, and of course that will be above equilibrium point, and this is where we have QD, and we have QS here. So what happens here is that we have more supply than demand, and we call this excess supply. And with excess supply, this will not be a shortage now, this will be surplus. So when things are surplus in society, we have excess supply. And when things are not enough in society, we have excess demand. That's a shortage. Very good. So let us see some questions about this now. Very good. So let's see some questions. So question 1 says, what is market equilibrium? When quantity demanded is greater than quantity supply. I don't want to read all the options, but you know the answer right now. The answer is C, when demand and supply are equal at a particular point, when QS equals to QD. Number 2 is the price mechanism primarily helps in what? The answer to that question is allocating scarce resources efficiently. So that's what the price mechanism does. The market demand and market supply, they help us to allocate resources in society and determining price. So let's solve this question on QD equals QS, finding equilibrium points. So that's QD equals QS. So if we solve it, we have 60 minus 3P equals 10 plus 2P. Whichever way you write it is still fine because you get typically the same thing. So but to avoid the negative, you can just say 10 plus 2P equals 60 minus 3P. So in solving this, collect like terms, that will be 2P right here. Move this value to the other end, that will be plus 3P. Then move the other value from that's 10, move it to the other end, that will be 60 minus, because this is positive, minus 10, and okay, so that will be 2P plus 3P is 5P, equals 60 minus 10 is 50. And if you solve this further, that will be P equals 50 divided by 5, and your answer will be 10. So answer will be option B, and that is 10. And if you want to verify this further to be sure it's correct, just say QS equals 10 plus 2P, and substitute the 10 into the value. That will be 10 plus 2 times 10, which will give you 20, and 10 plus 20 will give you 30. The same thing with QD, which is it's not 100, it is 60, which is 60. Let me just write this again. 60 minus 3P. Substitute the 10 in the P, that makes it 60 minus 3 times 10 will give us 30. That will be also 30. And this shows our equilibrium quantity and shows that our answer is correct, as this is the equilibrium price. Number 4, what happens when the price of a good is above equilibrium price? What happens there is a surplus. And next one is, what is the best definition of price ceiling? And the answer for that is a maximum price set by government, like we drew the price ceiling. And this says, which of the following is an example of a price ceiling? Of course, when government puts rent control in the cities, your rent cannot exceed it as a price ceiling. And number 7, what is the common consequence of an effective price ceiling? And the answer to that is a shortage of goods in the market, because when there's a price ceiling, it leads to what? Shortages, excess demand. Now, if the demand equation is this and this, just like we've been solving earlier on, the answer will be 50. So let's talk about this. When the government sets a price floor on agricultural products, what's likely the outcome? And the answer is a surplus of agricultural products. And last question is, if a price ceiling is set below the equilibrium price, it will result in what? We all know what it is, excess demand. That's what we call shortages. So now we've learned about how demand and supply lead to equilibrium, how they determine price of goods and services in society. So we have come to the end of Prep Station Economics UTME 2025. I wish you all good luck in exam.